Once we got past the burly guy at the door, we walked into a sea of bodies. In the middle of that crowd was the cage-style ring. At first glance, I thought they'd put in a new red mat. Then I realized it was actually soaked with blood. "Well, this is charming."
"It grows on you,"
Jenkins said, making his way toward the rowdy mob.
"Stay with me. Keep your head down, and whatever you do, keep a leash on that sharp tongue of yours. God only knows how much trouble it could land you in."
In my experience, lots. He stopped just before we penetrated the outer edge of the mob and turned to face me.
"This is serious, Sapphira. Once you breach this line,"
he said, pointing to a red line painted on the concrete,
"you're without your powers. All you have to back you up is your strength and your smarts, and somehow I think the latter disappear when you're pissed. So do what you can to keep that from happening."
Point made. Let's get this over with. I followed him through the riotous crowd that was already cheering for the next fight. I looked through the bodies at the cage, where a couple of average-looking guys were squaring off with only wraps on their hands for protection. That made me wonder. "Jenkins!" I shouted over the constant noise surrounding us.
"Yeah?"
"Why would anyone want to fight without their abilities?" He stopped walking and looked down at me for a brief moment, a hint of sadness peeking through his harsh stare.
"Because some of us like to remember what it was like to be human."
"And the rest?"
"The rest just like the thrill of survival."
Without further explanation, he continued through the tightly packed bodies, headed for whatever was on the other side. I tried to push his reply out of my mind as I stared at his back, following close behind him. It wasn't only his words that haunted me. It was the tang of resentment I'd felt rub against my energy as he said them. I'd felt that once before, when my Uncle Cooper had spoken about his old pack, the one he'd been with when he and my mother met. After that night, he'd never mentioned it again. I couldn't help but wonder if Jenkins was the same, if his past was as riddled with things he wanted to forget. Before my mind could wander further down that path, Jenkins stopped cold at the far edge of the crowd, where a middle-aged man stood. He had a large presence for someone not physically huge. His stark features and pale eyes seemed to play into that even more. Or maybe it was the way he towed the null line, opting to stay on the side of power. I wondered if that was a metaphor of some kind. Then Jenkins bent down low to speak into my ear, distracting my thoughts.
"Wait here. There's something I have to do."
"Who's that?" I asked, looking at the guy now staring us down.
"That's Murph. He's the second to the Southside Alpha and the one that runs this place."
As I let that detail sink in, Murph waved us over. Before Jenkins could argue, I obliged and headed toward him, an angry lone wolf tight on my heels. "You don't normally mix your business with pleasure, Jenkins," Murph said by way of greeting. Though he'd spoken to my companion, those pale gray eyes were all for me. "Oh, I'm not his pleasure, trust me. More like the current bane of his existence," I said with a smile. It earned me one in return, at least from Murph. I could feel the irritation radiating off Jenkins.
"She's new to town. She lives in my hood."
"Does she have a name?"
"Goes by Sapphira, or at least she did when she worked at Sinful."
Murph's eyes went wide. "As a DJ," I added quickly, "strictly clothes on."
"That's too bad,"
he said, looking me over. His attention finally drifted to Jenkins, and I could feel the lone wolf's tension ease slightly. Whether Murph and he normally had a tenuous relationship, or I was somehow making it one, I knew he wasn't going to let me stay much longer.
"I need to talk to you about what happened the other night,"
Murph said to Jenkins.
"Alone?"
Jenkins nodded, then gently took my arm in his to lead me away.
"I'll be right back,"
he said, escorting me back into the crowd. "But I need to—"
"You need to wait here and remember what I told you earlier. If I learn anything worthwhile, you'll be the first to know. Got it?"
I let out a hard exhale. "Fine. I'll do my best to behave while I wait, but no promises."
"Just give me 5 minutes."
With that, he hurried off toward a group of men leaning against the far wall of the building, well beyond the red line adorning the floor. I tried not to stare, wondering if I'd somehow screw up Jenkins's plan, so I turned my attention to the cage, or more specifically, the giant wall of a man blocking my view of it. I did what I could to